Hello, and welcome back. Today's story takes us to the Philippines, and it's one that starts with trust, but ends in something much darker. Julie Ann Rodelas was just 20 years old. She was young, ambitious, and still figuring out her path in Manila, in the Philippines. She wasn't famous, not yet, but she was chasing a dream shared by so many young women there, a career in modeling, television, and a future that felt bigger than her current reality. But on a November night in 2012, Julie disappeared. Just hours later, she was found on a quiet street in Quezon City. Her life had been taken. In her hand, she was holding a McDonald's receipt. It was such a small detail, easy to overlook. But that single piece of paper would become the key that unraveled everything. Because it didn't point to strangers. It didn't point to some unknown figure lurking in the dark. It pointed to people Julie knew. People she trusted, and at the center of it all was someone she trusted like family. Julie Ann Rodelas was born on July 14, 1992, in the Philippines. It's not a country we've talked about on the channel before, but the truth is, tragedies like this can happen anywhere. No place is completely untouched by the darker side of human nature. Her friends and family called her Jaja. She grew up in a modest home, not wealthy, not privileged, but rich in something far more important. She was surrounded by people who loved her and believed in her. Those who knew her described her as warm, approachable, and full of life. She wasn't caught up in the arrogance that sometimes comes with the industry she was stepping into. She stayed grounded, she stayed kind, and she stayed close to the people who mattered most. At the time, Julie was still figuring out exactly who she wanted to be, balancing family, friendships, and the unpredictable world of modeling. She had already started gaining attention. Her photos had appeared in magazines, including the popular publication FHM. But she was also thinking ahead. She was finishing a degree in hotel and restaurant management, a backup plan, a safety net, because she understood just how unpredictable the beauty industry could be. And while the Philippines is undeniably beautiful, Julie had bigger plans. She wanted to move abroad. She wanted to build a life with more opportunities. She had dreams, big ones. Julie entered the modeling world as a freelancer. It wasn't glamorous. The work was inconsistent. Sometimes small gigs, sometimes promotional events. But she understood that everyone has to start somewhere. She also worked part-time with ABS-CBN, one of the largest media networks in the country. The industry was competitive. Nothing came instantly. But Julie was patient. She believed in her potential. She just needed time. Among her closest friends was another model, Althea Altamirano. They moved in the same circles, attended the same events. Naturally, a friendship grew. They were around the same age, facing the same struggles, chasing similar opportunities. It made sense that they became close. And for Julie, Althea became someone she trusted deeply, someone who made the industry feel a little less intimidating, a little safer. But as we've seen in many cases, friendships can be complicated. Behind the scenes, things weren't always as perfect as they seemed. There were tensions, there were rumors. Some of those tensions involved Althea's boyfriend, Fernando Quiambao Jr. People close to them spoke about jealousy, about manipulation, about growing conflict beneath the surface. And on that night in November 2012, that tension would lead to a chain of events that ended in tragedy. On November 6, 2012, Julie told her mother she was heading out to run some college errands. After that, she planned to meet Althea. Althea had told her that a TV producer wanted to meet her, specifically. For someone trying to build a career in the industry, that kind of opportunity is hard to ignore. So Julie agreed. Her family, especially her mother, Luz Rodelas, was used to her schedule. Modeling and TV work don't follow a typical routine. Late nights weren't unusual, so when Julie didn't come home that night, there wasn't immediate panic. Not yet. But the next day, everything changed. They tried calling her, again and again. No answer, no response. They had no idea that soon they would receive the kind of news no family ever wants to hear. That same morning, around 5 a.m., people in Cubao, Quezon City, made a disturbing discovery. A young woman had been left on the street. Witnesses reported hearing gunshots. Then they saw a vehicle slow down and someone being pushed out onto the pavement. The victim had suffered multiple gunshot wounds. She had been abandoned there, with no identification, but she was still holding something, a small bag of food. Inside it, a McDonald's burger and a receipt. The timestamp read 2:33 a.m. At first, it didn't seem important, just another detail at a difficult scene, but that receipt would soon become the key to everything. When investigators arrived, they began working the area. The location was semi-residential, a mix of homes, a school, a church, and nearby businesses. Witnesses had already reported the sounds they heard, but could they provide more? As it turned out, yes. Several people said that when they looked outside, they saw a dark Mitsubishi Montero speeding away from the scene. And despite the confusion and the early hour, a few of them managed to catch something crucial: the license plate number, TWO505. That detail changed everything. Now investigators had something tangible, a vehicle they could trace. But there was still a major problem. They didn't yet know who the victim was. At that moment, she was just another unidentified young woman, and the questions, who she was and why this happened, remained unanswered. While authorities began tracing the license plate through the land registry office, Julie's family, on the other side of the city, were growing increasingly worried. Their calls still went unanswered, so they went out looking for her themselves. They searched all day. Nothing. The next day, they tried again. And that was the day their world would change forever. Desperate for answers, Julie's family decided to widen their search. They got into a taxi, hoping to check areas farther away. As they spoke, the driver couldn't help but overhear their conversation. Then he said something that made everything stop. He told them that the day before, a young woman had been found in the city. Immediately, they asked him to take them there. He did. But by the time they arrived, the scene had already been processed. Julie's body was no longer there. Still, police officers remained in the area, and it was them who gently suggested that the family go to the morgue for more information. Luz, Julie's mother, couldn't bring herself to go inside, so she turned to her son, Alvin. She asked him if he could do it instead. He agreed, and shortly after, he confirmed what no one wanted to hear. The young woman was Julie Ann Rodelas. As devastating as that moment was, it gave investigators something crucial. They now knew who the victim was, and with that, they could begin reconstructing Julie's final 24 hours. Her family sat down with detectives, answering every question they could, and very quickly, one name came up: Althea Altamirano. What no one realized at that point, not even Julie, was that her closest friend had been holding on to resentment, something we'll come back to shortly. Luz explained that Julie had gone out for errands and later planned to meet Althea for drinks and a business meeting, which meant, in all likelihood, Althea was the last person to see her alive. Detectives wasted no time. They reached out and asked Althea to come to the station. While waiting for her arrival, they received the coroner's report. It confirmed that Julie's life had ended due to gunshot wounds. But there was something else. The report also indicated signs that Julie had been sexually assaulted shortly before her death. For her family, it added another layer of heartbreak. For investigators, it added another layer to the case. Strangely, when Althea failed to show up, it didn't immediately raise alarm. Why that was, we can only speculate. But it's worth noting that the Philippine National Police, often referred to as the PNP, has faced criticism over the years for how certain investigations have been handled. It may help explain why early warning signs in this case didn't immediately trigger urgency. Another factor: information leaks. Compared to countries like the US, the UK, or Canada, details from active investigations in the Philippines have sometimes reached the media more quickly. And that's exactly what happened here. Reporters learned that Althea's name had come up, and that she hadn't shown up when asked. So they went straight to her family home, looking for answers, looking for a story. But instead of Althea, they were met by her brother. He told them she was in hiding, that she was afraid for her life. Her best friend had just been killed, and according to him, she believed she could be next. At that point, apart from media attention, investigators still weren't fully focused on her. Not yet. McDonald's blows the case wide open. During the autopsy, everything Julie had been carrying was collected and documented. That included the McDonald's receipt. Instead of discarding it, Forensic staff decided to pass it along to investigators, and that decision would change everything. Like most fast food receipts, it included a timestamp and the exact store location. So detectives headed straight to that McDonald's. They requested CCTV footage from around 2:33 a.m., and very quickly, they saw something important. A tall man, covered in tattoos, making a purchase. It's unclear exactly how investigators identified him, but somehow they did, and once they had his name, everything shifted. Because that man was none other than Fernando Quiambao Jr., also known as J.R. Althea's boyfriend. At that point, her earlier refusal to cooperate became impossible to ignore, because now there was a direct connection. Her boyfriend had purchased the exact food found with Julie, and still, she wasn't explaining anything. Even more concerning, she was no longer at her family home. Her parents claimed they didn't know where she was, and they couldn't explain why JR had been seen on camera. Investigators pressed further. They asked one simple question: what car does JR drive? And just like that, everything lined up. They confirmed he drove a Mitsubishi Montero, and then came the detail that sealed it: the license plate, TWO 505, an exact match to what witnesses had seen at the scene. The same vehicle that had driven away moments after Julie had been left on the street. The case was tightening fast, but both Althea and JR had disappeared. Officers tried to locate them, but came up empty. So they shifted strategy. They set up surveillance outside JR's family home and waited. A kidnap plot exposed. After days of nothing, something finally happened. JR's father, Fernando Quiambao Sr., left the house in his car. Investigators followed him, about an hour north to Apalit, Pampanga. They didn't know what they would find. This could have led nowhere, but it was their best lead. Eventually, he stopped in a residential area. He stepped out and entered a traditional nipa hut, a raised house common in the Philippines. Outside, investigators immediately spotted it, the Mitsubishi Montero. As they watched him go inside, they saw a woman. Inspector Elmer Monsalve, head of the homicide division, later said he wasn't sure at first if it was Althea, so he called out her name, and instantly she responded, Po. In Filipino culture, Po is a term used to show respect, especially when speaking to someone older or in authority. But in that moment, it also confirmed her identity. It was her. Inside, they found JR as well. The two of them had been hiding, avoiding the investigation. But now, it was over. On the evening of November 10th, 2012, just 4 days after Julie's body had been found, both Althea Altamirano and Fernando J.R. Quiambao Jr. were taken into custody. At first, JR denied any involvement. But Althea had a story. She claimed that earlier that night, she and Julie had gone to watch a movie at a mall. Afterward, they were looking for a taxi, walking along a boulevard near the World Trade Center in Manila. Then suddenly, a car pulled up. Two men jumped out. They grabbed Julie, forced her into the vehicle, and drove away, leaving Althea behind. She said she was in shock, that she didn't know what to do. According to her, a police officer from Quezon City later saw her standing by the road. He stopped, and she told him her friend had just been taken. It's important to note that report was filed in Quezon City while the investigation into Julie's death was being handled in Quezon City, which may explain why the information wasn't immediately connected. Althea insisted she had nothing to do with what happened. She said she couldn't even describe the vehicle. But investigators weren't convinced. They had too much evidence: the vehicle, the CCTV footage, the connection to JR. Her story didn't hold up, and under pressure, it finally broke. Althea admitted the incident wasn't random, it had been planned, but according to her, it was never supposed to end the way it did. She said she only wanted to scare Julie, to teach her a lesson. From the outside, their friendship looked strong. They even referred to each other as twins on social media. But behind the scenes, things were very different. Althea said she had grown angry. She believed Julie had been speaking about her behind her back, sharing personal information she wanted to keep private. Althea had children, and according to her, Julie had been telling people in their modeling and entertainment circles, which was true. But in that industry, being a young mother could limit opportunities, and Althea believed it already had. In her mind, this wasn't just gossip, it was sabotage, and she wanted Julie to face consequences, so she turned to JR. She said he told her he knew how to handle situations like this, that he could scare someone. She claimed she agreed, but only to frighten Julie. No harm, no assault, no loss of life, just a warning. She explained the plan. On the night of November 5th, she would text JR their location. She and Julie would be walking along the boulevard, and he would show up, and that's exactly what happened. But according to Althea, things escalated. Two masked men jumped out, and in that moment, she froze. She later said she thought about pulling Julie back, but she didn't. She stood there and watched as her friend was taken away. She also claimed she didn't know what had happened afterward, that she only found out the next day through a message from her sister. She said she confronted JR, demanded answers, but according to her, he denied knowing anything. He told her he had hired others and that they had gone too far. Meanwhile, JR had already told investigators he knew nothing. But now, with Althea's version on the table, detectives wanted to hear his side of the story. JR denied everything, again. And then he tried to shift the blame onto someone else, a man named Jaja Waraji, while insisting he knew nothing, did nothing, and that everything was Jamar's doing. He made a mistake. He mentioned that Julie had supposedly been taken to a safe house after the abduction, and detectives caught that immediately. Because if he truly had no involvement, how would he know that? That detail gave him away. By bringing up the safe house, JR wasn't distancing himself from the case at all. If anything, he was revealing knowledge only someone involved would likely have. So investigators moved quickly. At that point, they were convinced JR had played a role, but they also believed he hadn't acted alone. And if he was telling the truth about Jamar's existence, that meant there were more people involved. Acting on the information JR had given them, police organized a raid on the safe house. It was located inside the Salam compound, just outside Quezon City. Now, depending on where you're listening from, the word compound might bring to mind something heavily secured, fenced off, guarded, maybe even military style. But in the Philippines, it can simply refer to a residential area. That said, JR, and according to some reports, Althea as well, accompanied detectives so they could identify the correct building. When officers moved in, 3 men were inside. 2 were taken into custody alive, Jaja Waraji and Gelen Pasawilan. The third man, Fahad Bob Usman, died during an exchange of gunfire with police. Once in custody, Jamar quickly agreed to cooperate. In fact, he went even further than that. He became a state witness, and with that, he began giving his version of what had happened. According to Jamar, the person who set everything in motion was Althea. But JR was the one giving the actual orders. He said that before Julie was taken, he had been told that Althea felt betrayed by her. She believed Julie had been telling people that she had children, something Althea felt was damaging her image and hurting her career in modeling and entertainment. That part, at least, matched what Althea herself had already said. Because of that, JR had allegedly recruited Jamar and 2 other men to grab Julie that night in Pasay. Jamar admitted he had taken part in the abduction, but when it came to the sexual assault and the killing, he strongly denied involvement. Instead, he pointed to 2 other men, Efren Talib and another known only by the alias Aldos. According to Jamar, he, JR, and Efren waited in JR's car near the World Trade Center, watching for Julie and Althea. Once the 2 women appeared, they put on face coverings, drove up, and forced Julie into the vehicle. That was the first stage of the plan. The next step was to take her to the safe house, but according to Jamar, something went wrong almost immediately. In the middle of everything, he accidentally used JR's real name. And that mattered, because Julie knew exactly who JR was. He wasn't a stranger. He was Althea's boyfriend. Jamar had apparently been supposed to use a fake name they had agreed on beforehand. But in the chaos of the moment, he slipped. And the moment Julie heard JR's real name, she understood. She started pleading with him. She reminded him that they knew each other, that they were connected. She kept asking why this was happening. But according to Jamar, JR ignored her. Once Julie was inside the safe house, JR left, leaving Efren and Jamar to watch her, along with 2 other men posted outside as lookouts. Jamar then claimed that after JR left, he left too. He said he went home to sleep. And according to his account, it was during that time that Efren sexually assaulted Julie. something Jamar said he only learned afterward. A few hours later, one of the lookouts called him in a panic, telling him that Efren had invited another man over and that the situation was spiraling. So Jamar returned to the safe house, and when he got there, he met the man known as Aldos. According to Jamar, Efren had decided to bring in a friend. When he entered the room, Aldos was holding Julie at gunpoint. Jamar said he shouted at him to get away from her, saying that this was never part of the plan. Aldos became angry, and then, according to Jamar, the so-called compromise was that Jamar could assault her too. He refused, and instead he waited for JR to return. Around 3 a.m., JR came back, and in his hand was a McDonald's bag. He handed it to Jamar and said it was for Julie. At that point, Julie was still in the back room with Aldos. Jamar said he walked in just after Aldos had finished assaulting her. He then handed Julie the food. She refused it. She reportedly said she would eat once she got home and asked if they could please take her back. According to Jamar, it was Aldos who told her that if she ate then, they would take her home afterward. So, reluctantly, Julie took the bag, and as we know, she never took the burger or the receipt out. She just held on to the bag tightly. Then everything changed again. In a rush of movement, Julie was taken back to JR's Mitsubishi Montero. At that moment, she may have believed she was finally being released, that after all the pleading, she was being taken home. But according to Jamar, that wasn't what was happening. He said JR had already instructed Efren to end Julie's life. And if that's true, then the reason may have been simple. Julie now knew one of the men involved. The use of JR's real name had changed everything. Jamar said he went home after watching Julie, JR, Efren, and Aldos drive away. He believed, or at least claimed to believe, that they were taking her home. Later, he said, he learned what had really happened. According to his account, Aldos fired first, then Efren fired as well. And then, after that, several more shots followed before Julie was pushed out onto the pavement, still holding that McDonald's bag in her hand. The same bag that had helped unravel the case from the very beginning. By now, investigators had Althea, they had JR, and they had Jamar. What they still needed were Efren and Aldos. And for those paying close attention, you may remember that another man had been arrested during the safe house raid, and another had died there as well. But according to investigators, neither of those men had any involvement in Julie's abduction or death. The surviving man was eventually released in connection to this case, although he reportedly faced other unrelated charges of his own. A manhunt and a long delay. Efren and Aldos, however, were still missing, and police needed to find them quickly. So a manhunt began. While JR, Althea, and Jamar were formally charged, including an additional firearms charge for JR, authorities launched tracker teams to search known hideouts, familiar areas, and contacts connected to the two remaining suspects. But this is where the story takes another painful turn. Because if there's one thing the Philippine justice system is often known for, it's delay. And Julie's family came to know that reality all too well. The case stretched on for more than a decade. Over 11 years of hearings, postponements, delays, and rescheduled court dates. Each time the family showed up hoping for progress, they often left with more frustration than answers. Then finally, in December 2024, just after the 12th anniversary of Julie's death, a verdict came. First, Fernando Quiambao Jr., the man Julie recognized in the car, the man accused of giving the orders. He was convicted of murder. He was sentenced to reclusion perpetua, a sentence in the Philippines that generally means a minimum of 30 years and up to 40 years in prison. He was also ordered to pay 500,000 Philippine pesos to Julie's family, roughly about $9,000, depending on the exchange rate. Then came the ruling on Althea Altamirano, and this is where the outcome became especially controversial. She was acquitted of murder. Instead, she was found guilty of kidnapping and ordered to pay 100,000 Philippine pesos in damages, roughly around $1,800. But beyond that, no additional prison time. In court, Althea apologized. She said, "I didn't know they would rape and kill her. I'm sorry. I know it's my fault." For some, that may have sounded like remorse. But for Julie's family, it wasn't enough. They didn't accept that she was only partly responsible. They believed the coordination between Althea and JR was obvious, and they believed she shared responsibility for everything that followed. They left court devastated, and they vowed to appeal the acquittal. While those verdicts made the headlines, there were still other names in the case. Jamar Waraji, the man who cooperated and became a state witness, was placed under government protection. His testimony became the backbone of the prosecution's case. And in exchange, he received full immunity. So what about Efren Talib and the man known only as Aldos? As far as public records show, they were never caught. The charges of murder and rape were reportedly prepared and ready. Tracker teams were said to have been sent out to look for them. But from everything available publicly, neither man has ever stood before a judge. Neither has ever gone to trial. So yes, a measure of justice was delivered, but only a measure. Not the justice Julie's family had waited more than a decade for, and not the justice Julie deserved. Thank you for listening. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next case.